Welcome to the Autism in Black podcast, where we focus on all things autism and the Black parent experience. Our goal is to always educate, support, and empower parents to advocate for not only their children, but themselves. Hello, and welcome to the Autism in Black podcast. I'm Maria Davis-Pierre, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and America's #1 autism advocate for Black parents. I am the founder and CEO of Autism in Black, Inc., where we aim to include the excluded. Today we have Tiffany Hammond, who is the voice behind Fidgets Fries. She is a mother and advocate. She's a storyteller who uses her own personal experiences with autism and parenting 2 autistic boys to guide others on their journey. Her activism is rooted in challenging the current perception of autism as being a lifelong burden, cultivating a community that explores the concept of intersectionality in autism, and inspiring thought leaders through storytelling, education, and critical discourse. She has a master's in developmental psychology from Liberty University. I'm really excited at having Tiffany on the show. We have such a great conversation, so I hope you enjoy today's show. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. Today we have a very special guest. She is like a celebrity to me, and I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. Today we have Tiffany Hammond.
Thank you. You threw me with the celebrity bit. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, I'm truly honored to have you on the podcast, and I have already read your amazing bio. And can you just start us off by just telling us more about yourself and who you are?
I'm Tiffany. I am a self-advocate. I'm autistic. I have 2 boys who are also autistic. I'm married. I live in Texas. We have 5 cats that are also like our kids. I tell stories to give people an idea of how autism looks for us. And I want to change the narrative surrounding autism. I don't want people to look at it as something that is to be a burden or difficult or challenging. Autism can be difficult and it can be challenging, but I don't want that to be people's only perspective of it. So that's what I do primarily, is I want to show others another side of autism. I also really big into what I am now calling intersectional advocacy. I'm pretty sure that's probably a term that's like out there already, but I'm claiming it as my own right now. But when I first started advocating outside of my home, meaning advocating for other people outside of us 4, I noticed that a lot of it didn't include people that looked like us, that sounded like us, that had stories like us. And that was something that I wanted to change. I didn't know exactly how to go about doing that, since I was a minority within another minority group, and it's pretty hard to be heard outside of the autism community. So it was even more hard to be heard within it. And so I just, for every little advocacy webinar I could sign up for, I learned all I could. I absorbed all I could. And then I started to share what I learned. I would write letters to legislators. I would join other advocacy groups when they were going to Austin. I was right there with them, trying to soak up all of that I can learn. And then I took what I learned and I started to share it. And at first it didn't look like advocacy that included us. Still, I was still in the mindset of advocating for the group. Mm-hmm. And I think one day I woke up and I went online and I saw this image floating around of like a bunch of different autism moms, and they looked nothing like me. And their message was amazing. It was something about we're like autism moms and friends and we're in this together. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but I'm not in this. I don't feel a part of this community. I feel drowned out and I feel lost and I feel unheard. Mm. And we have very real issues as well. And we are either talked over, dismissed, or someone else is speaking for us. Mm. And I saw that. I think I told like 2 other people on Instagram. I saw that and I just saw red. Like I wanted to be happy at the unity, but I couldn't think of anything but like anger and sadness and like being left out again. So from then on, I think this was back in like January or February or something. And from then, I just changed the way I wrote about advocacy. It was no longer like this big group thing for me. I was more targeted. I needed more purpose. Like I needed to be like, you do not hear Black people. Yes. But you gotta hear me now. Mm. And that's when it started. It was still, people weren't really hearing me. Like, but I was writing the way that I felt I needed to, that I was gonna get the most ears. And I wasn't heard for a few months. And I was like, I told myself, I just needed to catch one person. Mm-hmm. I catch that one person and it's gonna change for me. So I'm just gonna keep staying on this path that I'm on because I have a message to say. Like I have a story to tell and I feel like there's a lot that I can contribute. And I just needed to reach one person. And I don't know who that one person was. And I don't know what happened. I mean, I do know what happened. George Floyd happened. Mm. And after that, I like took off. It was like everybody wanted to amplify Black voices. Mm-hmm. And I, to this day, I think I wrote about it before, but to this day, I am a bit conflicted about how I feel about that. I'm like, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for years, right? And nothing. I've even been told that it's not beneficial for the group to want to focus on specific communities. Oh, wow. You know, I've been told that it's more divisive. It's counterproductive. What I've learned is that if we as like racial minorities or women or adult autistic who are not really represented that well either, LGBTQ, just the minority within the minority, if we fold our fight within the group, we'll never be heard. You know, so we have to make like our advocacy needs to be more targeted. It needs to be more specific. It needs to address the needs of our most vulnerable populations. And it wasn't doing that. And George Floyd happened and I took off. And a part of me is like, I've been saying this for a while. It took another Black man to die for you to find me. And I did not want to be found this way. And I'm like, are you just here because, like, I don't want Black Lives Matter or to turn, or Black Autistic Lives Matter. I don't want that to turn into something that's trendy. I want this to mean something to whoever it is that finds like my work worthy of their attention. I want them to want to be here and want to work with me. And that was part of the hardest part for me. I think I wrote about it a few months ago, but I think when I hit around, like I grew like fast. It happened so fast. I didn't even I couldn't even have time to process it. And I think I cried, and I like for probably like an hour, because I'm like, I don't know why you're here. like I want you to be here for the right reasons. I want you to be here because you want to be here. I don't want you to be here because you feel bad and you blacked your screen out for a day, and, you know, or you share a little trendy post or a hashtag or a meme or something. I mean, what I am trying to do is inspire other people to engage in the work that I am doing here, because it is hard work and things will not change. And I cannot change it by myself. You cannot change it by yourself. We both can't do it by ourselves. And we need the help of not only our community, but communities outside of ours. And that's why I'm here. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm trying to do.
You're doing it very well, but, you know, I really can relate to that, you know, having the platform for a while and, you know, speaking for the side of the parents, because I'm not autistic, so I can't speak to that side, but the parent raising a child who is autistic and speaking from, you know, that Black side of that and how difficult and the systems that are in place and nobody's really listening. And then, you know, like you said, everybody's sitting and George Floyd happens. And for us, this isn't our first experience with that. But
That's
for
right.
the world who was sitting because of the pandemic, they got to see what we have to deal with constantly. And because of that, they were all, okay, well, I want to prove that I'm not racist or I'm not one of them. So let me amplify these voices. And like you, my platform started to really take off. And in the same sense, it was conflicting feelings of, okay, I really want you to get this message that I'm trying to get across. But in the same sense, I don't want you to do it to prove to others that you're not like the people you're trying to say you're not like. Like, I really want you to listen to the message because it's important. Like, our lives really do depend on it. It's not a trend for us because, you know, at the end of the day, our lives really do depend on other people understanding their own biases and getting it straight. So like,
Exactly.
there is a lot of conflicting feelings, and, you know, even letting those that I'm collaborating with or working with know that, you know, I just need you all to understand that racism happened well before 2020. So like, I need you to understand that and process that and understand that I understand you're trying to change, but I need you to also understand that this isn't new for us. This isn't the first name, a hashtag name for us. There's been so many before that. And there's going to be after, unfortunately, because of the society we live in. So
That's
I
correct.
can understand that, truly. So let's talk about the intersection of being Black and autistic and parenting children who are autistic, because I don't think people really hear a lot about that, and they're not really trying to understand how different it may be when, one, everybody's just looking at you for your skin tone and who you look like first before they even get to the fact of a disability. You're like a Black woman, and sons are Black men before we even get to the other conversation.
Yeah, and I think that is probably one of the most challenging things that I have when I'm sorry. Sorry, I had something in my throat. I think that's one of the challenging things that I have with, I guess, with this community, is trying to show that I'm Black first. I that is what they see first. They don't see disabled. They don't see anything else but Black first. Like, Blackness governs my life in so many ways. And that is just what I'm trying to, like, also put out there. I mean, with Elijah McClain, his story, and it's so, like, heartbreaking to me. And I saw so many posts from other autistic advocates and disability rights groups and they're all like, this wouldn't have happened. They treated him this way because he was autistic, and they don't really care for disabled people, and they don't understand, and that is true. It's definitely true. I cannot say that he's autistic. I haven't really heard that from his family or anything, and I've looked really, really hard
Me too.
for that. But I thought they were missing the point. Elijah was treated the way he was because he was Black. Yeah. They didn't know he had a disability or a perceived disability. They saw a Black man doing something that they felt he shouldn't be doing. That's what got a call to the police. It wasn't his disability or a perceived disability or anything else. We are Black first, and I think that was what frustrated me a lot. And that's what frustrates me a lot, being Black, parent, autistic, raising autistic kids, is I always faced with a lot of choices and decisions that white parents don't face, white autistic people do not face. And sometime last year, I shared a post about ABA being covered in Texas. It was an article. Medicaid was going to start covering it. I didn't leave no caption. I just shared the article. I kid you not, I had so many messages in my inbox. You're a horrible parent. You're abusing your kids. They don't deserve you. You don't deserve them. On my timeline. Wow. In my messages. Then someone put me on a ban list.
Really?
A ban list for an article that I just shared with no thoughts of my own. So, and after I got over the first 2 days of probably crying, because it was just, I was so mad and I was so hurt and I was so frustrated because they didn't get it then. And it was mostly white autistic people who had no children. But now this year I can post that same thing, that same type of thing, and I will get more support for it than I would get people in my inbox. And so I on one hand, how much has things changed in a year?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, some people still don't get it. But it's like, being Black is, our behaviors are considered maladaptive before we even open our mouths.
I mean, just the presence alone,
exactly,
of our sons, just the presence alone,
exactly,
people, terrifies people.
And that's exactly what I was getting at. It's just like, I don't do ABA, but I don't lecture parents that do it. I don't say, this is bad, you're abusive, you're horrible, you're this, you're that. My reasonings are completely different, because I feel like autism isn't a behavioral disorder in nature. I don't do ABA because it's behavioral in nature. And that's just my primary reason for not doing it. But I do not get on parents that do.
Yeah.
But I also am Black. And I can see how we cannot be as free in this diagnosis as somebody else can. And that was proven to me when my son, who was 9 years old, had the police called on him because he had a meltdown, which was the same type of meltdown I saw a little white boy who was around the same age of my child have the week prior, who had no police called on him. And I am at this school with my child who has calmed down, but there are police just standing all around him. He is 9. And he's walking, he's cooperating with the police officer, and the police officer wants to put his hand on his shoulder, on my son's shoulder, to guide him while he's still following his directions and walking beside him. And my son jerks away because he's not into touch, right? But he's complying with you. And the first thing that this officer says is, do you want to get in the back of the cop car? You are going to be arrested. He is 9.
Oh my gosh, the trauma.
And that was his response to a child who's already walking beside you, but you want to put your arm around him. What for? You know, and then I'm sitting in my head and I'm like, how do I, as a parent or a Black parent, approach the situation without it making it worse for my son and making it worse for myself? You know, it's, and I shared that story, and like all the Black parents are like, that's scary. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how I would have handled it. And all the white parents are like, you were calmer than me. I would have did this. I would have said this. I would have done this. I would have did that. And I'm sitting there like, we can't afford to do that.
Can't. We don't have that privilege.
I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. I don't know how or what I'm supposed to do. Like, we have been pulled over for all kinds of reasons. Scared, out of our mind. My husband has almost been shot for reaching for a wallet he was asked to get. And those things just run in your head, and they play in your head, and you're like, we can't respond the way you do. And that's just like with ABA, when I don't get on parents about that stuff. And they got on me for it. And it's just like, what does our Black parents do for our children whose presence is seen as a threat, whose behaviors are seen as a threat? This is before you even know that our children have a disability. Our children have to modify their behavior, and they don't even have to have a disability
at all. It's as soon as, you know, and I was having this conversation with a group of white psychologists, and, you know, I was letting them know, I said, you have to understand that when we step out the door, just as those who don't have a disability, we have to act in a certain way just because we're Black. So it's a fine line of parenting our child with a disability and understanding that we have to protect them. At the same time, we don't want them to have any shame in their disability.
Exactly.
So fine line that we have to walk to say, yes, I want you to be proud of who you are, having any shame, but at the same time, there are certain things that we can't do outside just because we're Black. Like that's a difficult thing to try to even parent to a child without a disability. My 4-year-old, how do I have that conversation of, son, you can't do that outside because you're Black? Add disability factor. How do I have that conversation when it's just who they are and who they're being, but at the same time, it's a threat to a lot of people?
Yes, and that my son, when we first moved to Abilene, to the city that we're at now, they have a place here, like Frontier, Texas, and it talks about the history of this area. And there were a lot of things wrong with this presentation, but we went, and my son is so into history, and you know, and he's into presidents and just all that he can teach a class on this stuff. And there were these cool, like, authentic looking revolvers they had, that they had for sale. And he really, really wanted one, and he saved his money, and he really wanted to buy one. And it's just like, I you know, how do I let him buy that? How do I let him have like this toy that so many other kids in this neighborhood are playing with? And they're outside and they're playing and they're having fun and stuff, and I can't give that to my child to go outside and play with. You know, you just get images of Tamir Rice in your head, and it's just, you're like, wow, when there's all these different type of conversations that we have to have. And sometimes he gets it and sometimes he doesn't, and it's just those are hard conversations to have. And a lot of times they didn't, a lot of people don't understand. Mm-hmm. They don't understand it, and they don't understand why we as Black people have this strong need. I don't want to say desire, I want to say need to congregate with one another, because we are each other's safe space, and we need that. Yeah. And we need to be around those that get it, that understand us, that uplift us, that hold us, that we can laugh with, smile with, you know, and go through these hard topics with, and then leave that little world we created for ourselves, come back to this one and try to make it a better place for our children and their children. Yeah. And when I first started this, I ran into a lot of opposition to this. I was in like real life physical autism groups, where I sat there, one of two Black people in this meeting, and I watched white people talk about the validity and the appropriateness of having Black only groups. And I'm like, y'all don't live this life, and you feel as though you are the authority of the Black experience. And you want to tell us if it's appropriate for us to have these spaces for ourselves. Oh my. And me and this other young woman, we didn't say anything. We sat back and we listened to them back and forth and decide if it was right for us. Like lives they don't live, to say if it was right for us to be together. And it was, and what was very eye-opening. I don't want to say eye-opening because it's something that we know, right? We sit in those circles, and you leave and you're like, this is how the world works, though. And it's is that we're governed by the majority. Our lives are governed by supremacist systems. Like, we live within this, and we are living in a world that doesn't care about us. And it's like each and every single day we learn that, and we live it, you know. And talking with professional psychologists who are the ones that are, you know, doing the evaluations and giving the diagnosis and explaining to them, you know, that your experience is not our experience. So these decisions that you're saying we should abide by, they don't even make sense to us because you don't know our experience. And, you know, taking it back to the ABA conversation, again, I don't judge those who do ABA either. You know, that's a parent choice. You have to parent your child, and I'm not in your house to tell you yay or nay. And I was letting the psychologist know that we can't run the authority for what parents do in their home, especially Black parents who are making a decision because they want to protect their children, and they're not understanding a lot of what's going on. They're just understanding, hey, I'm really trying to protect my child, because I know if they go outside and they do some of those behaviors, there's a chance that the child might not come home. That's right. Us to shame parents because they're making a decision based on trying to protect their child, and you're not even seeing that it's that. You're just seeing it as, oh my God, you're such a horrible parent. Why? Just like, you know, they were telling you, and it's so sad to see professionals do this, not even understanding the impact that it's having on this household. Yes. We need more psychologists. We need more minority psychologists. We need more Black psychologists, more Hispanic psychologists, more Latinx psychologists, more LGBT psychologists. We need them. Yeah. We don't have them. We need them from the science on down. We need it. They don't take into account how impactful culture is on our experiences. They don't look at that. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't live it. And that's a large part of the problem as well.
It's the whole reason, one of the main reasons autism in Black exists is because my colleagues were coming into my home and they were not taking the fact that I was Black and my husband's Haitian into consideration. They're just like, oh, here's the interventions I learned in school. Let's go ahead and apply them. No, exactly. It's not going to work that way. You have to understand that because I'm Black, it's going to factor into your intervention being successful or not, because of the way that society views us and the way we've had to adapt for our protection just to live another day. So
exactly
that whole, it just boggles my mind, one, that we're not learning this in school, that it's not taught, that, people think that, okay, we just apply their interventions and it's okay. No, it's really not.
Yeah, because all diagnostic measures, all intervention measures, all of that stuff is predicated upon a group that doesn't look like us. It's white people, white adults, white kids,
white men,
white parents, white, like, we're not a part of the studies. We are not a part of the studies. We are not a part of the scientific conversations around disability. We are not largely considered in these talks and these studies. And when they come out with these new techniques or these new measures and new guidelines and new studies and it doesn't represent us.
Not at all.
At all.
Quite harmful. Quite harmful.
It's incredibly harmful. When I was doing my master's and we were going through the process of learning to diagnose others and doing case studies and speaking with clients and going through this, they would have it where we would come across the same type of client or maybe even the same one. And a lot of times the white students would not diagnose the Black clients as having certain disorders that I knew that they had. But they didn't consider that. They didn't look at these clients from a cultural perspective. They need to know exactly who we are, how we live, our experiences, our backgrounds, our, like, everything.
Yeah.
And science doesn't always I love science. I'm like a child of science. I love it. But science gets it wrong a lot.
Yes.
And it will forever get it wrong if it does not consider every single person or every single culture, every single, like, experience. Science serves white people well.
Very well.
It does not serve us well.
At all. It like we said, it's harmful to us to the point that we are often misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, not diagnosed, school to prison pipeline. It just starting with our babies as young as 2, we're already being looked at as aggressive and deviant and harmful and terrifying. So, we're never given that chance to prove anything otherwise.
No, not at all.
Not at all. So I know we were talking about a lot of the divide that happens within the autism community. And I know a lot of the divide that I feel and other parents have felt is between parents who are raising a child who is autistic and those individuals who are actually autistic.
And that divide is wild, and I don't want no parts of it.
Me neither. It's scary. I've had parents come to me and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I just have to tell them, like, you have to parent how you are going to parent. Yep. This is your household.
That's right.
So you can't have people who aren't in your household governing what you do.
Yeah. That's the best advice I could give them. It's just like, I tried that before. I tried riding one specific lane, and it doesn't serve me well at all. I gotta live whole, and I say that so much. I'm like a broken record, but it's that's the best way to be. Like, I cannot split myself apart. I tried that whole mom only route, and it didn't suit me, because all my life experiences filters through everything that I am.
Yeah.
You know, it filters through my womanhood, through being a daughter, through being a sister, through being a wife, through being a mother, through being autistic, through being Black. You know, it's just like everything, it filters through everything. And I couldn't just be, you know, ride the autistic lane, because I'm a parent. And so a lot of what that group says as a whole, I don't necessarily agree with, because I'm coming from it as a parent a lot. And then as a parent, there's a lot of things I don't agree with what they do. So I gotta ride on the outside. I like the outside. I do well there.
It's that fine line again. It's that fine line.
Yeah, and I try to balance it as best I can. I try to show that it is possible to have all your parts in all the sides. You can do it. It can be done. It's incredibly challenging, and I have to think so hard on everything that I write and that I share, because I'm trying to see if it represents me well. Does it show everything that I am? What perspective am I coming from? And I can't do that divide stuff. I feel like I first started writing about it like a while ago. And I started talking about that I don't have sides. You won't see me promote symbols. I don't promote puzzle pieces, infinity symbols. I don't choose a side. I'm not an autism mom. I'm not actually autistic. I am just me. Not that I have a problem with people having the symbols and their mantras and their, team slogans and whatnot. That's not me. Yeah. I just want to be someone that shows others that it's possible to create a world where all of our experiences fit and work together, and just work together for the betterment of all of us. Like, I think it's possible. That divide is something else. And
I agree with you. It's very, because working with parents whose child is recently diagnosed, to them it's very terrifying, because they're already scared because they don't know, especially when it's Black people, because we can never find nothing much about us.
Not much.
It's just like, I go on all these websites, everybody's white. So they're like, I just want to make sure I'm doing the best for my kid. And that's what it's me. Because it's like, that's all we want to do as parents, is we want to make sure we're getting it right for them.
Yes. And that's what I try to show. I try to show that, it's terrifying to put yourself out there in the way that I do. Yeah. And I post scared every single time I post, because I'm like, this is going to be the one that sends everybody into my inbox, or this is, and it's just, but I put it out there anyways. I feel like
it's very relatable. Every time you post, I feel like, is she living with me? In my house.
That's my goal. I want to make it as though I'm in your house.
Yes, and it's just
your sun
like,
chips.
Okay, you get it. You understand. You know what it is. So you make it very relatable, which is why I love your page. I mean,
I try to do it in a way that it's like, I know I get a lot of messages. When I first started, I would get a lot of messages, and they're like, well, maybe you should write this way or do that. I'm like, nah, because there's a lot of accounts out there that educate autism. I don't need to do that, because I don't want to be an educator of autism. there's a lot of things that a lot of people do within the actually autistic community and the parent community that I'm not the biggest fan of. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to make a post and tell you I'm not the biggest fan of that. Like, what I want to do is I want to tell a story. Mm-hmm. I want you to see yourself in that story. And then that's where I reach you. Mm-hmm. I get you that way. I bring you over to me that way. And that's my goal. And the battle lines are so rigid, right? I had Autism Speaks wanted to share a post of mine. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, I didn't know what type of post that they wanted to share. Mm-hmm. But the one that they wanted to share surprised me because that post I don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember that it didn't align with how that organization used to be. It was almost like anti-Autism Speak, but not really. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting to me. So I said, go ahead, share it, you know? Mm-hmm. It was me talking about the beauty of autism and loving myself for who I am and loving my children for who they are. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to share it. Cool. But then I got messages. They were like, did you know that Autism Speak shared your post? I'm like, yes. I don't know. Do you support them? I don't know if I can follow someone that supports them. And I'm like, there is the unfollow. But it's like, I don't go to their walks. I don't go do any of those things. I don't write for them. I don't do any of that. I never really expressed how I feel about Autism Speaks as an organization ever. But I want their people. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. So hello. I tag them. I tag them in posts. I hashtag them because how am I gonna reach the people that I feel will gain the most from my messages if I don't find them where they're at?
Exactly.
I want them.
When you type in autism, what comes up first?
Autism Speaks. Exactly. I want them. I want their people. like it's just like, and that's what I'm like, and I'm telling them, I'm like, if you're the advocate that you claim to be, and you want to change the minds of these people to bring them to your side, why are you not finding them where they're at?
Yeah.
They're in the spaces that you need to be at. So I tag them and I let them come to me.
Yeah.
You know, and because I want them. I feel like I have something they might benefit from. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm saying I might have something you like.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna come. I want you to come to me. So I want you to find my stuff. Instagram is huge. It's like billions of users. like I think it's billions. But you know, I'm like, I'm just a little drop. I want you. Find me. I can't find you all, so I'll just, you know, hashtag a couple of stuff, tag a few things, and y'all come on over here. You know, the water's fine.
and learn something while you're over here. You know, learn something different, learn something new. Nothing wrong with that. It's a point.
Hey, yeah, it's just like with the lines, and I'm like, I can't be on this side.
Yeah,
I can't. I don't do that. I can't be so rigid like that in my thing. I mean, I'm rigid, period, by nature of my diagnosis. So I don't need to add anymore. Like, I don't add no more. I feel like it's better if I live whole as I am. I'm going through a thing right now that angered me so much today. I might write about it. I think I'll do a video since I'm that mad. And it's part of being a parent. And I shared a post about functioning labels. And you might have read it. I'm not sure.
I've been doing a little detox because
it's something.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a mom, and we were going back and forth about functioning labels. And she referred to her son as low functioning. I said I couldn't do that. And she told me that by the description of how I described Aiden, that she would also describe him as low functioning as well.
Oh.
And I was like, but I didn't get like super mad at her. Mm-hmm. I just told her that, okay, just how about you pull your son aside and you get eye level and you put your hand on his shoulder, you look him in the face and you say, honey, you are low functioning. Mm-hmm. And she said, I would never do that. Oh my God. But I'm saying, so I'm like, and do you know why you wouldn't do that?
Exactly.
And like, that's what I was trying to get you to think about that. Like, mm-hmm. If you wouldn't say it to his face, why do you think it's okay to say it behind his back? Or that you think, and people think words are just words, but their actions are influenced by your words and your thoughts. And
powerful. So
yeah, I shared that. I didn't share it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then I shared it on Facebook. Sometimes I avoid sharing the stuff on Facebook because it's a little bit rougher over there.
I'm with you.
And but I shared it and it took off. And so did my inbox. So I shared it with a picture of Aiden, my son. Mm-hmm. And I shared it because I love that picture. He was standing in a playground by a swing and he was just staring and he looked so handsome and stoic and just staring and peaceful and this was the child she wanted to call well functioning. And I'm like, how could you look at him and think that? So I felt the image was appropriate. It made him look, he was in a good light. It was tastefully done. And I got all these messages from people that shared the post and loved it, but they were in my inbox and they were like, there were comments on my share of yours and they wanted to know if you had consent for posting the picture. Oh, let me tell you, I wanted to throw my phone. And but it was like, if it was just one of those messages, I would have been all right. But I lost count after like the 8th or 9th message. And then sometimes I read through the shares and I'll read some of the comments that people have said. It was a lot. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is where the parent in me kicks in. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's coming from other autistic people who don't know me, nor my child, nor my family, nor how we work. Mm-hmm. And I am always mindful of what I share. I never share my children in meltdowns, post-meltdowns. I don't talk about them crying. I don't talk about them self-injuring. I don't talk about them harming themselves or others. I don't get into all of that. I want to present them in the most positive light that I can. And I run all my posts by JoJo. He consents to the ones he wants me to put up of him. Mm-hmm. And he'll tell me, no, don't put that one up. We'll look at Aiden's photos. He'll tell me, no, that one looks like he's crying. Even though if he's laughing or something, he'll be like, yeah, he's laughing, but people might think he's crying. So don't put that one up. You know, so we go through this. Yeah. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I am angry because I feel like I have to justify why I'm sharing my children.
Mm-hmm. When it's none of their business.
Yes.
Just, you know, yes. that's like, we just gonna be keeping it 100. And that's why I have to take so many breaks.
Yes.
No ghost. I have to for my own mental health, because people blur the line so much that they then think that they can tell me what to do with my children.
And that's the part of being a parent there that diverge from being autistic. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I want to raise these children to be these bright, independent individuals who have control over themselves and, you know, their bodies and what is out there. And I also am protecting them and advocating for them and helping them in the best way that I can. And I don't think they always get that. They think that parents are automatically the enemy. And I can't go through life like that. And I can't think that way.
Yeah, and still doing all of that for your children and still doing it for yourself as well.
Yeah. And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And because, I get those things, I don't always take it well. I don't always take that type of criticism well. Not when it comes to my kids. I don't. A lot of times I react in, I don't want to say not the most rational way, but probably true. But I'm saying, like, I'm like, I should take a pause before I decide to respond to that in the way that I want. I always have to, because I will say things that, I might not like.
Yes.
And it's just, I feel like as a community, they're picking and choosing the wrong type of battles. We need that is not a battle you want to pick with me. Right? It's just like, this ain't what we want to do. And by we, I mean them. They should not want to do this. Like, and it's just like, that's why I don't come at parents like that. I'm like, even the ones that post videos of their children having meltdowns or writing about it, I'm like, I'm not about to get on you for that. I'll share something about why I don't do it, but that's me.
That's me.
And I won't I'm not going to tell you what, do I think you should do it? No, I don't. Exactly. I think there's other ways to bring awareness to your experiences and your situations, but you don't have to answer to me. Exactly. I am not your child's parent. You are. What you are going to probably have to answer for is your child when you get older. Exactly. That's something you deal with. Like, let those parents have to answer to their children. They don't have to answer to you. And they got to pick those battles a lot better. Yes. A lot better. It's the wrong thing. And that's what I stated when I first started this journey and removed myself from being on a team, is that they were fighting the wrong battles. They were battling each other. They weren't battling what we needed to help make this world more accessible to people like us. It was just too much fighting. I couldn't do that. It wasn't me. So I'm right there. Thus my new direction was born, and I just hope to have more people, understand what I'm trying to do and come along for the ride, and hopefully I don't crash. And
look, even if sometimes we still can get right back up and continue.
That's true.
It happens.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, I run out of gas a lot.
It's hard. It's hard living in this world right now.
It is.
It's difficult. So
it is. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Every time I see you post, I'm like, yes, I see you. I see you.
I try. I'm trying. I'm trying to just be a better person and help people like understand our experiences and give them something. I want to give people something different, like when they're on social media, and I don't want them to just see autism all the time and it be either something that's, depressing in some ways, and then on the other end see it as something that they need to be taught. It's like, this is what a meltdown is, and this is what a tantrum is, and this is what this word means, and this is a symptom, and this is a sign. There's a lot of great accounts that do that, and I follow a ton of them, and they're really good. They really help me. But that wasn't that wasn't the lane I wanted to go in. I wanted to like mix in stories of advocacy and just make it different. Hopefully people would catch on. I was hoping. I told my husband, I just need one person. They're gonna launch, and people will understand that I wasn't just writing to be writing.
No, definitely not. I think we've seen the evolvement, and now you have your Patreon, and it's like, oh yes, access to, learning even more about, intersectional advocacy and things like that.
Yes, I was excited about that one. I wasn't gonna lie. Like when I started writing about more advocacy and what I was trying to do on Instagram, I didn't know how well received it was gonna be. And then it was suggested to me to do a Patreon. I had no idea what that was. And I was like, okay, I'll look it up and see what it is. So I looked it up, I researched it a little bit. I was like, oh, I might could do this. And I got so excited about it because it was like I had the freedom to write as I wanted to write. Like Instagram is it's image driven.
Yeah.
Highly. But unlike, other platforms, I do think the people read the captions here, which was amazing to me. Yeah. So, the image draws them in, but I do believe they read here, which is more than I could say for Facebook. But
I'm there with you.
I loved that they loved that. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And I was like writing because I didn't want to just launch and have nothing, because I felt like my fall season was going to be super busy. So I was like, I won't do it. I have to have a plan. And I was so excited about it. So I wrote so much for it. And I wanted to see if I could test drive it before I launched, but I couldn't really play around with all the little toys and stuff until I launched. So I was figuring a lot more stuff out during this first week. But I think I got it. And over this weekend, I'm going to try and integrate some more things into it. And hopefully it works. I'm so excited. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm so happy I get to just share. And I could grow like my advocacy in so many ways. And I'm like, I kind of set it up like in a classroom format. And I'm excited. I hope more people join.
It's very nice, and we'll have the link to it in our show notes for those of you who are interested in as well. But it's a great resource along with her Instagram page. So, check those out.
Yes.
As we wrap up, any resources, advice, tips for parents and caregivers who may be listening?
I think my biggest advice is just, if you're a parent, just love your child as they are. Show them that love and attention, and I guarantee you they will show it back in so many ways that you never even thought. I think that definitely trust yourself. I know a lot of times you come online and you're pulled in so many different directions, and like someone's telling you need to do it this way, do it another way, and you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this, just trust yourself, read through everything, learn different perspectives, and and take what you need and leave what you don't. Just trust yourself.
Heard.
Yeah. And other autistic people, I think, keep being your beautiful selves, embrace others and their perspectives, try to see where other people are coming from, whether it's another autistic person or a parent. Believe that everyone has something to offer, especially if you want to be an advocate. And I just wrote about this the other day. It's just like, just make sure that if you want to be an advocate, just remember that all of this work that you do is for others. It's not just for yourself, it's for other people. And just remember that your work is not supposed to filter through your experiences. It's theirs as well. So think of them. Yeah.
Great.
I think that's it. I think I got the parents and the
you did. You encompassed it all, and I'm here for it. Where can the listeners find you? Because I know they're going to want to definitely connect if they haven't already.
I am on Instagram, where I'm the most active, at Fidgets and Fries, but there's a dot. It's Fidgets and Fries. I'm also on Facebook at Fidgets and Fries. I just joined Twitter recently. My handle is Fidgets and Fries. And definitely my Patreon, where I'm super excited about it. I'm going to be on that a lot. It's where I teach intersectional advocacy, how to be an ally, creating a community that is truly inclusive. I'll have more autism and homeschooling content on there. That's probably where I will educate about autism. And that is just going to be mostly me showing you what we did as a family that worked and what didn't, how we set up our homeschool, what works for us and what didn't, things like that, behind the scenes stuff, just all kinds of stuff, previews of any books that I'm writing. I'm writing a couple, and some journals. And that's patreon.com / or is it /? I can never remember that. Fidgets and Fries. And yeah, that's everywhere. You can find me.
And we'll have the links to all of those in our show notes. Tiffany, thank you so much for having this very open, real, candid conversation with me. I have learned so much. I feel so validated. I felt like it was just us just having some good old girlfriend chat. So I appreciate you being on the show so much.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you all for listening. And we hope to see you on the next episode of the Autism in Black podcast. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can always be notified when a new episode drops. To get the resources shared on today's podcast and the show notes, make sure to go to autisminblack.org/podcast. And be sure to share your takeaways from the show on IG stories and Twitter using our official hashtag AIBpod so that we can find them and share them. And if you want to continue the conversation from today's episode, make sure to join our Autism in Black podcast Facebook community. And please make sure to answer the questions to gain entry. Thank you for listening and joining me this week. Have a good one.